Good morning. 2 Kings 18, 1-16 gives us a two key lesson. First, faith is not simply a shield against suffering. In chapter 17, we saw the fall of Israel and how they turned to a mixed religion, accepting various idols and abandoning God's law. Because of their disobedience, they were destroyed by Assyria. The consequences of disobedience are clear. Now we turn our attention to King Hezekiah of Judah. Hezekiah, the son of King Ahaz, was a good king who pleased God, unlike his father Ahaz. Hezekiah was praised as a king who followed in the footsteps of David, a man after God's own heart. Previous kings of Judah like the Asa and Josaphat, Joash, Amaziah, Uzziah, and Jotham were good, but they didn't remove the high places. However, Hezekiah boldly removed these high places. He made real religious reforms by stopping idol worship. At the same time, we see Hezekiah human's weakness. Even though he was a good king, he made a mistake. When Assyria threatened, Hezekiah temporarily faltered and paid silver and gold to Assyrian kings to avoid a conflict. This reflects a reality that many believers face. Having faith does not mean we are free from the suffering, and at times our faith can waver. The passage makes it clear, faith is not guaranteed that we will be spared from hardship. Even with the faith, difficulties and trials will come. Many people get discouraged in these times and turn away from God. But despite this struggle, we must recognize our weakness. Both David and Hezekiah had a moment of the failure. But the important thing is that they continue to turn back to God. So as we reflect on this passage, we should evaluate our own faith. Even in our weakness, we must hold on to God. Like the Hezekiah, we should strive to turn to God during the difficulties and never give up. Maintaining our direction toward God, even in tough time, is essential. Today's passage shows us the way. Today's passage can be divided into three key events. First, Hezekiah's reign in Judah. Second, the fall of Israel. And third, the Assyrians' invasion. The first part is Hezekiah's reign in Judah, verse 1-8. Verse 1 and 2 provide three key facts about Hezekiah. He began ruling Judah while Hoshea was the king of northern Israel. Second, he was 25 years old when he became a king. Third, he ruled for 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother was Abi, daughter of Zechariah. From verse 3, we see God's evaluation of Hezekiah's reign. He did what was right like David. Hezekiah removed the high places, which other kings of Judah had failed to do. He also destroyed a bronze serpent made by Moses, which had become an idol. He called it Nehushtan, meaning it was just a piece of bronze, showing he trusts only in God. In verses 5 and 6, Hezekiah is praised for trusting God like no other kings before or after him in Judah. He followed God closely. Verse 7 states that Hezekiah was successful in everything he did, and he rebelled against the king of Assyria. In verse 8, he also regained control of the Philistine cities, including Gaza. Second part is the fall of Israel. Verses 9-12 recount the fall of Israel. In the 4th years of the Hezekiah reign, during the Hoshea 9th year, Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, besieged Samaria for 3 years. In Hezekiah's 6 years, Samaria was captured, and the Israelites were taken into exile. The passage explains that Israel fell because they did not obey God's commands given through Moses. Part 3, the Assyrians' invasion, verses 13-16. In the 14th year of the Hezekiah's reign, King Sennacherib of Assyria attacked Judah. This teaches two key lessons. First, Hezekiah's boldness in rebelling against Assyria had consequences on invasion. Second, even Hezekiah's faith did not prevent hardship. Faith is not guarantee of protection of every challenge. Again, faith is not guarantee of protection from every challenge. In verse 14, Hezekiah admits to the king Assyria, "I have done wrong," acknowledging his rebellion and asking for peace. Surprisingly, instead of seeking God's help, Hezekiah surrendered to Assyria. This shows his human weakness. Even a faithful king like Hezekiah can falter under pressure. Finally, Hezekiah strips the temple and palace of gold to pay the tribute, highlighting his moment of weakness. Like Hezekiah, we too many find our faith shaken in our times of financial or health crisis. We must remember that even the strongest believers can face moments of doubt. King Hezekiah's life teaches us an important lesson. He was a good king like David, but his weaknesses were also clear. This passage shows both his faithful reign and how his faith wavered when Assyria invaded. This reminds us that faith isn't shield against a hard time. Even on the journey of faith, we can face challenges, and our faith can sometimes shake. But Hezekiah's story doesn't end there. The key is that despite his weaknesses, he kept turning back to God. This is true for us too. A life of faith isn't about a moment of repentance. It's about consistently turning back to God. Even though Hezekiah faltered under the Assyria's pressure, he was still considered faithful to God in general. His life teaches us the importance of the holding on to God and trusting Him even in our weaknesses. We might face a moment when our faith feels shaky, but we must never give up on turning back to God. We have to recognize our weaknesses, yet continue to trust in God to the very end. That's the crucial lesson from the Hezekiah's life.